Well, having inflicted on you my first installment, and the sound recording was troubled, shall we say. Then I've re-recorded it this afternoon, and I'll send it to you because I've edited it and it needs to be put together properly if I learn how to do it properly. But in the meantime, something happens as city lives like this. There are events. Now, what occurred to me on reflection is that I've emphasized the France of people over the France of things. Not the wine, not the food, not the architecture, not even the weather. The weather can be regarded as a thing. It's the people. Now, if you fall in love with the French people, you're going to fall in love with their pets. And today is going to be a story of my favorite Bordeaux pet. But before we get to that incident, I'll tell you about what happened this evening. Now, as is common, I assume in America and England and Australia, New Zealand, it's the same. If you drink at all, you'll probably have a locale, a local bar. And now my local bar could hardly be more local because if I could roll out of my apartment in the morning, I'd roll into it because it's directly across the street. And because of the ebb and flow of visitors and drinkers and liveliness and weekend musical events and what have you, it's a part of my sound system, if not necessarily always visual. Although I have been noted to appear at my first floor balcony and looking down at a large crowd in that local bar and delivering a papal blessing as required, because just because. So, another point. So, the bar. I went down because the weather was magnificent, as you saw me earlier, without any clothes on. Well, now it's cooled off a bit, but still superb. It's 6 o'clock here. The sun is setting over the west, of course, and over the Atlantic, and which is still lovely. There's slight chill, but only slight. And I went over to the bar because I needed to go. I need to make an appearance. It's something one needs to do every other day. I go, and I think there's about 50 people who are local loyalists who go every other day in one sense or another. So I went over, I had the place more or less to myself, and the master came out and gave me a really interesting mid-range red, deep red, beautiful color, dark color, from Medoc. And Medoc is just to the north of us here, as a wine region. And so it was interesting. It was a complexity in the middle, which was fun. And then he gave me the assiette, the plate of the day, which included two kinds of charcuterie, cold cuts, and two marinated, what did you call it? Artichoke hearts, and then a set of slices. They looked like very thin lemon slices, but they were vegetable. And you look at them carefully, you realize that they were very thinly sliced, marinated courgette that I had never seen before. And it was lovely. Under the impact of the marinade, they turned slightly yellow, which courgette can be, obviously. So it was a nice piece of bread, and they brought out the sliced bread, and it was slightly warm, not toast, warm. I prefer warm bread to toast, because I think toast, which is not my thing. But this was so. And while I was sitting there, I was reading something. Now, Marguerite Duras, Lama, the lover in English, and the film title as well. There were two film versions, if I'm not mistaken. How to explain? I hadn't read it in English. I knew of her, but I hadn't read it in English before I came in. After I came in 2019, I promised myself that I would read only French. School gave me a beginning, but it took work and I worked at it, but the decision to read only French was really, really important because it pushed it along. And among all the French skills, my reading is by far my best. I can tackle a text, a dictionary, what have you, but still, I can do it. And Duras is an example of this, Lama is an example. And I've read it with a woman friend who worked in the bar. She's now moved on. But, and Duras, okay, Lama. This is, I can't stress the importance of this. And there is a strategy of two strands here. One strategy would be to read L'Amant in English or French before you start preparing your French adventure. To reset your mind, your pleasure clock, to a different way of doing things. And I include in that romance of text. And you can to really absorb the atmosphere, the touch, the sensuality of Duras' work, and use it as sort of a strategy for pursuing your life. It will adjust the way you pursue pleasure. And if you don't have an active concept of pleasure, it may give you the beginnings of one. Now, the other strategy, which may be more practical in a way, is to come to France, experience life here, learn to discover a different side to your sensual nature as a person, as a man, as a woman, as an adult, and then read Duras when it will be, you'll be fluent when you read it. You'll be prepared to revel in it. There's my favorite line is after a subtle scene of sexual encounter. The heroine remarks, the sea, without form, simply incomparable. Do you see where I'm going with this? So, I was reading L'Amant for the second time, in the bar, on my own, tonight. And somebody asked me what I was reading, and I explained the fact that the woman I had read the story with is now gone, moved on. I don't, there's always a story, of course. Then while all of this was conspiring, Iago appeared. Iago is a mutt, intelligent mutt, but that's not his chief virtue. He is, in my view, the dog of the street. And Iago, named for the villain in Othello, Shakespeare's Othello, is a phenomenon. And what kind of phenomenon? When I first found out about Iago, because I'm very fond of dogs, and Bordeaux is a very doggy city. I mean, very doggy. It's probably the most doggy place I've ever been, ever lived. And that's saying something coming from Britain, which is doggy heaven. The Brits are adore dogs. And there are lots of them. But oh, Bordeaux, my goodness. Doggy, doggy, doggy. Cats, dogs. So Iago appeared. Now, first time I heard about Iago was motorcycle. 2 noisy cities, I warned you. Iago claim to fame is that my woman friend offered Iago a piece of bread with foie gras. They're about foie gras, okay, forget this, let's go with it. And Iago spat out the bread and ate the foie gras. This is a gourmet dog, a gourmaniac, like all the Bordeaux. He fits right in. So listening to this story, I said, okay, let's get down to business here. How is he with cheese? And he said, my friend said, oh well, he'll eat Comté, the French hard cheese. He'll eat Comté, but it has to be at least 18 months old. It has to be slightly mature. This dog has a palate. It's shocking. So tonight, Iago sashayed up to me. Now, what was I having? With this assiette of charcuterie, I gave him a piece of one of the charcuterie, and then he stayed and haunted me, and I knew he would. But then I thought, okay, let's get down to business, so let's have a test. So I gave him the last piece of charcuterie on a piece of bread, my warm bread, my quasi-toast. Iago looked at me, took it, put it in his mouth, ate the meat, and spat out the bread. Like he did with it. He's not a bread fan. Quality. Substance. This is Iago. Now, you see what kind of place this is. That is not atypical. It's unusual, but not atypical. It's here. It's part of the fabric of the way Bordelais live. And we are serious about food. And food is regarded as, somebody's happy about eating. And so I conclude. Oh, it's some unruly dog, not Iago. Iago doesn't get unruly. So I'll leave you with the vignette as my temptation, just a minute of the scene. I taught university in Wales for 10 years, business school, and I had a student who is a billionaire in the egg. He was very successful. And he wrote to me, and he said, I'll come to Paris, and we'll do something. And so I went to Paris, and I met his board of his company at dinner, and probably the finest restaurant I will ever go to. I think it was 3 stars, and not just off the Champs-Élysées. And so we went there and had this dinner, and whatever, and I arrived, and the board was engineers, English engineers. My friend is not English, but it's close enough. And the staff discovered that I was only francophone at the table. So they made a fuss. It was sweet. They gathered around me, chit-chat, question, blah, blah, blah. And one of them predictably said, are you expecting great things tonight? And I said, yes, I am expecting great things tonight. I'm sure it will almost be as good as Bordeaux. Shockwaves across the room. Now, that's the way we are about food. The Bordelais take no prisoners. If you say your food is good, the Bordelais attitude is to quietly say, prove it. And that's the lesson of pleasure with which we conclude. Now, my version of my introduction will follow, but you have been warned. Have a super evening.